So the following clip is an edited version of episode 10 with David Chow, who is a bioengineering student at Harvard College who decided to take a gap year to travel and to build a social media platform. Now, this clip is everything you need to know about David's admission process, from the extracurriculars he did in high school and CEGEP, to how his SAT scores and how he practiced for them, to recommendation letters and GPAs and essays and everything else. But most importantly, this is not a compilation of stats of David's academic career, but more importantly, his mindset and how he approached things and how he saw things that led him to where he is today. You also learn about what the experience is really like from David's perspective when he got to the campus in his freshman year, some common misconceptions, the workload, the type of people he met, the courses he enjoyed taking. Now, obviously, this is not your definitive guide to getting in a top university, but it's a profile of a Harvard student who was admitted in early applications. Now, last thing to keep in mind, David is from Quebec, and what we often refer to as high school in this episode is not the same high school system elsewhere in the world. It's actually equivalent to grade 7 to grade 11, and what we call CEGEP is a 2-year program after high school and before university that is mandatory in Quebec, and that is equivalent to grade 12 in the first year of college. So technically, David is probably older, 1 year older than all the applicants from the States, for example. Now, if you want to hear about the rest of the story of why David decided to take a gap year and travel around Canada, or of the social media platform that he is building, go to episode 10 with David Chow. And lastly, if you heard this episode in its entirety and you want to check out the full episode with David Chow, and you don't want to repeat too much of what you just heard, you can check out the timestamps in the description of the main episode to skip to the part that you want. This Harvard clip is made out of around 80% of the first third of the main episode, and also a little bit of clips from here and there. So if you don't want to repeat too much, just skip to the timestamp and enjoy the rest from there on.
So I was at Brébeuf for high school, and then I went to Marianopolis for CEGEP. For college, I decided to go to the States and study at Harvard. And so I finished my first year last year, and then when COVID hit, I decided to take a year off. And so I'm currently on a gap year, working on different projects and just having a good time, not in virtual school.
And here we are.
And here we are.
Now, was this part of the plan from the very beginning, this vision of going to a really reputable higher education, or is it just something you discover later on?
Yeah. To answer your first question, was this part of the plan since the beginning? Absolutely not. And it still surprises me to this day when I hear stories of people who've been preparing for college since high school. When I was in when I was in high school, I wasn't thinking shit about what I was gonna do after high school. Man, I was in a different place when I was in high school.
Really?
And I think so I also think the people who know me back in high school when I was at Brébeuf, I was really a different person. And so college was never a thing that I thought about. I was like, oh, I'm probably just gonna go to McGill, chill in Montreal, or I don't know. I had no plans at all for my life. That was that was my situation was when I was in high school, and it was only until sort of the end of my first year in CEGEP that I was that I started considering applying to school in the States as a possibility and as something that I might want to do. I think this also plays into how sort of as a person, again, if you know me personally, you know that I'm sort of since high school and going into CEGEP, I've changed a lot as a person, and with that change, I sort of developed this sort of just more ambition and more need for to sort of satisfy those ambitions, and it felt to me like a lot of sort of what I wanted to do personally, but also sort of my own personal curiosity when it comes to both culturally as well as socially, pushed me to want to sort of go out of Montreal. And on top of that, this is sort of just a general a trend over the last few years, but I've just more and more felt like I've become this nomad, where I just I can't stay at a certain place for longer than for longer than X amount of time. Like I
Right.
just feel like I've used up all of its resources. I've seen all it has to offer, and I just feel like I need to like get out of my comfort zone again and then go find something new and something exciting.
Kind of like a parasite. You suck out all the resources. I'm kidding.
Well, I mean, depending on your perspective.
Right, sure. So you said it was really towards the end of your first year at CEGEP, right? So that was when you were like 17, 18, right? Something like that. You developed this really big interest for going to the States and going to the higher education, right? But I guess at that point, it would probably be too late for you to just start doing all the extracurriculars, all the stuff. So you were really, but even before developing this ambition, you had a really well resume for, let's say, an Ivy League school or a really high tier university.
Absolutely not.
No?
No, I would, I think, okay, so I honestly think like, so I think the turning point for me,
Right.
again, sort of as a person and the way I think about the world and myself and my relation, sort of like what I want to do in the world, that turning point really happened, I think, like around Sec 4, Sec 5, which for non-Quebecers is like grade 10, grade 11, right? Yeah.
Something like that, yeah.
And so it was only then that I started really thinking about sort of what was my role in society, what I wanted to do with my life, and sort of the activities that I wanted to get myself involved in. And so, but even then, like what I was doing was sort of, I was sort of just getting started and getting used to involving myself in a lot of
Right.
activities, and in CEGEP 1, when I went to CEGEP, I think another big part of why I wanted to go to Marianopolis was part of this idea of like being a nomad and going out of my comfort zone. And so like going into my first year, like one of my own sort of personal goals was to just like meet as many people as possible, sort of learn from new perspectives and just try out as many things as possible. And I participated in like a shit ton of clubs, and my schedule was horrible. And, you know, I would not recommend this to anyone, but I think it's a great way to just get yourself involved in, and more importantly, sort of just learn what you sort of as a person enjoy and want to do. And I think like, you know, I didn't find that in my first year, but I've definitely sort of explored a lot of different paths and learned from a lot of what other people have done. And that's been a huge engine of inspiration for me, just seeing what other people do and sort of sucking their ambition and their goals and being like, damn, like I also want that,
Exactly.
you know? But no, that's true. It's like the people you hang out with, like you end up sort of their energy, their ambitions sort of, you know, diffuse to you in some way the more you hang out with them. And so I think it's really important to sort of just meet a lot of people. And I think like going into CEGEP with that mindset really helped a lot. It was draining though, because it was something, again, it was sort of that turning point because I'd never done that before. And so there was a lot of personal growth involved as well. But I only really started getting myself involved, like I said, like towards Sec 5, CEGEP 1, and then CEGEP 2. Yeah, I think the people that end up influencing you play such a huge role.
You're onto who that meme, who you sit next to in class will literally change your entire life potentially. Kind of like that
100%,
idea.
100%.
Yeah.
And it's scary though. It's scary because you can't really control that.
You feel so out of, you can't control anything because your destiny is shaped by so many factors, and you know, but you can only like try to get your chances up, I guess.
Yeah, that's sort of like the mentality that I have is like 50%, or most likely probably less, but you know, 50% is a nice round number. 50% of your life, like you can control, right? Like I can say like, you know, I'll go to the grocery store today, fuck it. Or like, you know, I'm going to go do this or do that, right? But the other 50% is completely out of your control and all about luck, right? So I can, you know, because I know you want to talk about college stuff, at least for a bit, but like I can apply to, you know, I can have the perfect resume and apply for a job or even for a school, but yet if the person who's reviewing my application for some reason they had a shitty morning, right? Like, I don't know, like they spilled their
Somebody
coffee
bumped
on
their
their
car,
plate.
you
Yeah,
know, scratched
yeah,
their car.
exactly. Like they're just not going to be in the mood, right? And I could have a great resume and I won't be accepted. And so it's like you can only control so much. The rest is just luck. And so, do you know Malcolm Gladwell, the author? I think we talked
Yeah.
about this.
Yeah, we
But
talked about outliers
yeah,
for a bit.
yeah, his book Outliers, man. Like I can't keep recommending this book enough to everyone, but it just talks about sort of this idea of like the American dream and how, to a certain extent, it's not really, it's not entirely real, right? Like, oh, if you work hard, you'll succeed. Like, if you work hard, yes, like you've got half of that done,
Right.
and the other half is if you're lucky, then yes, you'll succeed, right?
Yeah.
And I think no, I just, that's sort of like my life philosophy at this point. It's like I'll do as much as I can, but the rest of it is out of my control. But I think the mentality that you shouldn't adopt is like, oh, like so much is out of my control that it doesn't matter what I do, right? It still very much matters what you do. It's just like do like everything you can, but don't be depressed afterwards if it doesn't work out, right? Because just know that the way life works is not exactly linear, right? It's not like the effort
Yeah.
that you put in is going to equal how much you get out of return.
Let's get back on track. So when you got into Marianopolis, what were the extracurriculars you signed up for?
Man, so I think so in my first year I did so many things and I ended up dumping like 90% of them. Yeah, so in my first year I was part of the student union. I was the coordinator of external affairs. I was part of the debate club, the Model UN club, the bunch of other small things that I think I dropped. I was also part of the paper, the Marianopolis.
The paper cut?
What's it called again? No, the other one.
The other one. There's another one.
The fully digital one. The Marianopolis Review something.
World Review.
World Review. I feel awful for forgetting that. I was also part of that. But I ended up dropping. Yeah, I ended up dropping that. I ended up dropping the debate club. The debate club was fun though, but I was I was getting clapped by everyone.
I'm in the debate club right now,
sucked
and
at debate. Yeah. I mean, I'm sure if I
tough.
stuck around and practiced, that I would have gone better. But people were just too good going into it. But so I left that. I think I stuck. So mainly I stuck with Model UN and Congress or the student union part. I think those were sort of where I think I felt most comfortable in, and also where I think I could learn the most from and grow the most from. And obviously, people have limited resources, so I can't be, running around doing everything I wanted to. But I think that's sort of, and those, those two already suck up a lot of my time.
Yeah.
And then moving into second year, I continued being a part of the student union, but as president. And at that point, at that point, I was also doing Model UN actually. I was that was for the conference. Yeah, but most of my time was for the student union.
And what was the thing that you gained the most from that, other than obviously the title?
Yeah,
and this experience.
Experience, lots of personal growth and personal development. Okay. Just the experience of working as a team, with a team, working with people, socializing with people, meeting people, and just that entire sort of the entire baggage of around sort of leading a group, project planning, project management. It just there's just so many soft skills that you develop from from putting yourself in a position where you're constantly bombarded with different challenges, different tasks every day, and we had our fair share of challenges pop up, and so just I think in the end, you just think of it, I now I can think of it sort of almost as a startup, right? Like it's a small team, and every day you're just constantly you're constantly fed with information, with challenges, and you have to think of ways to tackle these, and think of ways to create new projects, and then work as a team to solve a lot of these issues, right? And so, and that was something that, and the sort of the team, the group projects that you had at school, like I never really had exposure to that.
Your internet cut out, but you were just talking in slow
Did
motion.
I cut out?
Anyway, you're back. I kind of heard the last
Okay.
sentence.
Yeah. Sorry. So I was saying, like, other than group projects at school,
Yeah.
there wasn't really any other opportunity for people to just work, as a group on a team project, on a team effort, and coordinate and sort of plan that whole process, and think about ways to be as most efficient as possible when doing these things, right? And obviously, like I was, I wasn't the best at my job, certainly, right? But there's just so much learning that happened when I think about it over those last few years in personal growth. And I know I keep saying, personal growth, but I really think this is the theme of the conversation, at least for me, is like just like year over year of just learning, I think, is sort of the metric that I use to gauge how good of a year it was, right?
Yeah. And you ran for president and you got president. Now, what was exactly let's say, what made you be fit for this role at that year?
Honestly, I don't know. I don't know, but I know for myself, like I can't talk from their perspective, but from my perspective, I was part of Congress since day one. So since my first year, and Congress has always been, I've always found a lot of joy in meeting new people and getting to know new people. And I think like people is another word that I've probably repeated tons of times, but it's another theme, I think, in that, everything ultimately is about people, right? Like people build startups to solve people's issues, right? People run for local office, for federal office, whatever, to solve people's issues. And I think like one of the things that clicked for me was I just really wanted to meet as many people as possible and help out and create relationships with as many people as possible. And that was also part of the reason why I ran for coordinator of external affairs in my first year, and why I really want to continue doing staying in Congress and helping people out in my second year was because of the people, right? I had a lot of good friends and a lot of good communities at Marianopolis, and I wanted to stay involved. And the way I saw myself doing that as most efficiently as possible was to continue in Congress.
Marianopolis. What about? So now you're very close to applying for university. Now, what program were you in at that point?
I was in honors health science. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. Are you asking like, is that what I wanted to do at that time?
If that's what you think I asked, go ahead.
Yeah, no. I honestly, the only reason I went to health science was because I didn't know what I wanted to do. And I think like most people, it's the case for most people. There was this. It was super hyped, like the pre-med track, right? Sorry, and it still is, right? Like that's sort of like that's sort of like the holy grail of like smart people, right? Like these smart people apparently do pre-med at McGill, right?
Yeah,
or at other UDs, right? And so I was like, oh, like I want to be a smart person, so I'll do health sciences. And honestly, to be fair, had I not gotten into Harvard, I might have applied for pre-med at McGill, and had I gotten in, I don't know, maybe my life would have been totally different. Maybe I would have been a practicing physician.
We might not even be here. We probably wouldn't be here at all.
No, we maybe probably not, right? And so, and that's such an interesting conversation, like pre-med and going to med school, because I have such, like, I think I have a controversial opinion about med school, but we can get to that in a second.
All right.
But so yeah, so I was doing health sciences mostly because I wanted to do sciences for sure. And we talked about this off record, but to me, like, it just, like, a lot of the hard sciences and the skills that you gain through science class, you just can't. It's just harder to gain outside the classroom, right? Like, a lot of the topics are really hard to understand. You need someone to mentor you. You need a teacher to get you through it. Then also you have a bunch of labs that you just can't do at home.
Yes.
Right. And so it's always better to do science in a classroom. But when it comes to sort of things like business and soft skills like management or accounting, like, these are things that you can easily just pick up a textbook and acquire that skill, right? And even better than that is just sort of gaining that skill in a more hands-on experience, right? Like starting your own startup or building your own project. Like, that's an even quicker and more efficient way of gaining those business skills than like learning the theoretical stuff, right? And so, like, that's sort of another reason why I really wanted to do sciences rather than one of the social sciences. But yeah, no. So I ended up doing health sciences, and I don't regret it, because I think it showed me. I was sort of exposed to a lot of different sciences, right? Biology, chemistry, and physics, and I like most of them. And I think good. Even though right now I'm leaning more towards the engineering side, I still think it's bioengineering. So there's still a lot of chemistry and biology involved, and so it wouldn't have been pure applied sciences anyways.
So you're Congress president. You were also doing Model UN, which you were in a leadership position. How did those affect your grades? How did you balance this extracurricular and school?
Yeah. Oh man, it was horrible. Yeah, no, I think one of the other skills that you gain throughout that is the experience of just having a horrible schedule and time managing as most efficiently as possible. I think that was a crucial part for me, for me surviving throughout the year, because there was times when I was like mentally and also physically really stressed and just drained from all the workload that was coming from every angle imaginable. And so it's like, like you gain you gain such valuable time management skills through putting yourself through such a hard time, right? And I think it's important, because a lot of people aren't able to sort of put themselves either like in the right mindset or whatever and get themselves to work or be efficient. And I think time is literally the most valuable and limited resource that we as humans have or don't have, right? And I truly think the difference between someone who does well and someone who doesn't do well in whatever they're doing is how well and how efficient they're able to manage their time.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think like that was sort of the biggest thing that I got out of that, at least personally in terms of personal growth was.
And at the end, what was your R score like, Côte R?
My R score was fine. And I think again a big thing that played into that was just being able to balance everything and being able to like prioritize things and manage my time. I think my R score was on the new R score. I think I was 39 or something. 39 was for the new one. But I think the new score is not.
Yeah, it's higher than before.
Or I might be lying. I think it's 39.
Okay. But we know that you got around 39.
It was. I think it was. Yeah.
How did your Côte R 39 translate to GPA?
I was probably like. I mean, I don't know how they calculated, but I think I put in my application like 4.0, like 4.0 out of 4.0, because like I don't know. That was through my research. Like I just went on Google and searched like Côte R to GPA converter, and that's what they told me. It was the general average, because they look at the general average. Never mind. Okay. They don't look at the Côte R. So I had to convert from my general average to the GPA, and the converter, all the converters online said my general average converted to GPA was 4.0. So I was like, okay, 4.0 then.
That works.
Like, if I can give advice to myself back then, is that I would tell myself that grades like were not as important as I think they were back then. I also think sort of, the difference between 37 and 39 is not that much, to be honest. Like if you think about it, like once you hit like 95% on a certain like grade or like exam, like that the effort you need to put to go from 95 to 100 is like so much more effort than you need to go from like 80 to 95, right? And so you start to see like these diminishing marginal returns when you start to enter the higher regions of scores, right? And I also think like at a certain point that's just not a good an efficient way to spend your time anymore,
right? Exactly.
Right? Because honestly, the difference between someone who has a 95 and a 100 is to me is null. There's no difference in that, right? Like they probably have the same amount of intelligence or the same amount of like logical reasoning, right? Yeah. It's only one person.
Just little details. Maybe you just read it wrong,
No, exactly, exactly, right? And so it's like, to me, the difference between like someone who has a 39 and someone who has a close to 40 R score, which I know, I have a friend who I know Christ. Someone who is there. A difference between someone who's at a 40 and someone who's at a 37 or 36 is minimal. It really is minimal. And so to me, my advice would be like, don't worry too much, right? Like that range of grades, as long as you're in that range, like it's fine. Like
once you reach it, the effectiveness plateaus, right?
Exactly, exactly. And that's the same thing for SAT scores, right? Whether you get a 1600 or 1590, 1580, 1570, 1560, like honestly, there isn't much difference. Isn't much of a difference, right? Like if you got a 1560 or 1540 and you took another test, you'd probably get a higher score, right? But it's like, do you really want to spend your time trying to reach the perfect score when you could possibly put that time into, I don't know, like reading a book, developing a new skill, like working on your startup or working on the project, right? Like it's all about like where you want to put your time. And at the end of the day, like, some things are just more worth it than others. And that's only like something that I understood like after I got in. But I think also that's sort of the contradiction. It's like once you get in, you also feel like it might not be as important, but maybe
in retrospect, you always see it in kind of like that perspective. All right. Anyway, SAT, how many hours did you put?
Like shit ton. I'm not like a natural born like genius. Okay, like
say that.
Like I have, but I have some friends who are just, dude, like they're just smart people, naturally smart people. But for me, like a lot of times, like I don't consider myself as necessarily like a naturally smart person. I just put in a lot of effort into what I do, and so for the SAT, I did study a lot, a very lot. And actually, my first score wasn't even that good. My first score was, what was my first score? I think it was in the low 1500s or like high 1400s or something like that. And like, that was my first score. And obviously, to most people who take the SAT, they'll take the SAT multiple times. And that's what I would recommend as well. Like most people don't ace their SATs on the first try. Those people are just natural geniuses.
Yeah.
Or they were just really lucky. But yeah, so I took the SAT again, and it just, man, a lot of hours of studying. Like I think over the summer, but I think a lot of hours of studying, but it wasn't necessarily like whole days of studying, right? I think a lot of it was just compounded studying. Every day I would set like weekly goals. I would do weekly tests, I would start with monthly, but then when you get closer to the test date, I would start doing weekly tests. But then, it was just a lot of, it became a routine. Like every day I would do like 1 to 2 hours. And that was especially true for the subject tests. Like every day I would be like, okay, I'll do like 1 to 2 hours, and I went through books, I went through like test prep materials. It was crazy, man. It was crazy time. And honestly, like when I think about it, it's like, would I had gone a just as good of a score had I not studied? Probably not, because just for like I think, but also I think it differs from person to person, right? Some people just are more efficient with their studying, some people are less efficient with their studying, some people are smarter with their studying, and so it depends. You just need to know, like personally, like for yourself, like how much studying you need. Yeah, no, you have to find your own sort of your own what's the word, mojo when it comes to studying.
Haven't heard that word used in forever. Mojo.
Yeah, mojo. It's a good word. But
so can you put a number into the hours? Let's say a
number into that. Shit, man, that's like a Fermi question, dude.
Give me a rough guesstimate.
I don't know, probably more than 100 hours. I mean, I'm sure I know people who've done more and who've done less.
So what was your score at the end? And how many tries did it take you?
Yeah, my final score was 1570.
Okay, solid.
And yeah, it's a decent score. I did the SAT 4 times actually.
Okay.
And it's like every time it's like incremental growth, right? But every time it's incremental growth. I did the SATs, so that's the regular SATs. I did them 4 times, and then the subject tests I did them just once, and they worked. Like I said, like have I had like in retrospect would probably not have done it so many times, because like once you get into a certain range, like it's fine, right? Like like
a 1550 and above, it's stellar.
Yeah, no, that exactly. And I think like especially true for some of the higher level colleges in the States, like they use SAT mostly as sort of like a threshold entry barrier, right?
Like a big filter at the beginning.
Yeah, exactly. Like once you get past that, it doesn't really matter anymore, right? Like if you get past with a 1550 versus the 1600 dude, like they're not going to choose the 1600 dude specifically because he had 50 points more than you on the SAT. Like that just played stupid if they do that, right? Like from an admissions perspective, right? Like you're not optimizing for any like like characteristic by doing that. So if anything, you're optimizing for the wrong thing, because that dude probably spent more time, right?
Well, he got in. Good for him, probably. Anyway, any resources you want to recommend to anybody listening, potentially who's studying for the SATs?
For the SAT, just get SAT books. They're super valuable.
Any particular ones? No?
Yeah, I mean, I don't want to give free shout outs to people that don't sponsor this podcast, but
Amen.
So for the
Hallelujah.
subject test, I used Barron's. I used Barron's, but I know there's also the Princeton Review, and that's equally as good. Just my advice: just choose one, and just go through, just work through the entire book, and then you'll be fine. And there's also the SAT prep book, which I think is the
official one.
You should also do that one. Yeah. I mean, why wouldn't you? Like, it's the official book. Like, you should probably read through it. Probably has some helpful information.
Did you do any like study groups, group sessions, or was it just mainly a one-man job most of the time?
No. I didn't have too many. Like, not many of my friends were also doing the SATs, but even the ones that were, it's like we didn't really do group studies for that. I think it's like it's hard. Well, it depends. Like if it's like, because a lot of the content is just more. I think it's just easier to do alone. But yeah.
So when it came to applying, so which set of university did you apply exactly?
Oh, I only applied to Harvard. I applied early.
All right, 100%.
This is actually so funny because like I applied early, and I was planning on applying to a host of other schools by regular decision, which so early application, the deadline is November 1st, and then regular is January 1st.
Yeah.
But then I was so burnt out from my application to Harvard because, dude, the essay writing part is just so much work. It's so much work. You don't realize it until you start doing it. And so I was just so burnt out. I only ended up starting to write my other essays for like the 10 other schools that I wanted to apply to, like like 2 weeks before January 1st, like sometime in like early mid December. That's when I started like my application process
it's a
for
shit
the
ton
other
of
school.
work. Yeah.
Yeah, and so like had I not been accepted in early, I probably would not have been able to finish my applications for the other schools. I just started so late. But yeah, that was just a funny story. But
One for one. I mean, jeez.
I mean, I
Yeah.
consider myself like super lucky. Like I said again, like most, I really do. There's some, there's so many smart people out there, and a lot of my friends are a lot smarter than I am. I'll tell you that 100%. I consider them just so much smarter than I am. Yet I'm here, right? It's like
I think it's that practical intelligence. Also.
Could be, but I also just think a lot of luck plays, and I'm just really grateful for it.
What about recommendations letter? Did you spend too much time thinking about that, or?
I mean, for recommendations letter, I think it's pretty straightforward, right? Like you think about like which teacher you have the best relationship with, and which like you just go down the list, like right, like which class did you have a good grade on, which class did you participate in, which class you have a good relationship with it, then you should probably go to that teacher, right? I don't think you need to think too much about that. No, it's very straightforward.
You know what I'm disappointed at?
Oh, what?
That you didn't make one of those viral acceptance videos so everybody
Dude, it's like that's such a missed opportunity, right? It's such a missed opportunity. Dude, I could be YouTube famous right now.
You could have put your title I only applied for Harvard and I got in, or whatever. Anyway, would have been a cool moment.
Yeah, it would have been quite clickbait. But I think it's like one of those things is like I don't consider myself. I'm somewhat superstitious. But I also know that my beliefs are completely false and are just like psychological like effects. But I'm still superstitious, right? It's like I feel like if I did that, I would have jinxed myself. Although I know like statistically that doesn't make any sense. But it's just like
it's a natural impulse. I feel like
it's just like mentally I'm just like what if it jinxes me? I just can't. I'm not fuck that. I'm not gonna do it. And also like what if it's bad? Like.
It's still a great video. They don't show the negative videos, but I bet they're pretty entertaining. No offense, it's a hard moment, but I bet
no, it is.
There's a load of them. That's anyway.
Yeah, no, exactly. It's just too many emotions. I just couldn't. So I was like, nah, I can't. So also, it was just so like the email came in at such a like random time. Like I had no time to set up. It's like it came in and I wasn't gonna be like, okay, let me set up my recording real quick. It just I was like we were not given any notice of when the email was going to come. So it was just like those 3 days where my heartbeat was constantly at like 120 RPM, like the whole day, right? Like I would like be like I would have my phone like off the whole day just because I didn't want to know that like it was there.
It's scary,
right?
yeah.
And then the moment I least expected it to come, it appears in my inbox, and it just appears, and like instantly, not instantly, but like immediately, like almost like as a reflex, without even thinking about it, I just open it and I just go onto it because I was just like, I'm just gonna like get it over with as soon as possible. That way, I don't need to think about it anymore, right? And so there was like no window of time or opportunity for me to get set up whatsoever.
Because if you kept waiting, it just make you feel even more like sick inside. Like, oh my god, you be anxious. You think all about these things.
It was so stressful. It was horrible.
When did you receive it? Before regular application deadline, or?
Yeah, I received it like mid-December.
Okay. Yeah. What are you doing? Do you remember what you're doing?
I had just gone home. I think I was browsing the internet or something. I don't remember exactly what I was doing, but I had just gone home and I was on my computer for a few minutes, and then it just appeared.
How'd you announce to your parents? Just casually walked in the room. Hey.
No, so they actually weren't even home. They were abroad. So I just sent them a picture. I didn't even call. I sent them a picture. And then, so that and then they called, and then whatever. But
so you got into Harvard and you moved in. So I guess a common thing that happens to most people, I assume, is that you're the big fish at where you started. For example, at Marinopolis, you were a star at your hometown, and then you get into the best of the best. Now, a lot of people, they kind of feel, for example, like a loss of self-identity or confidence or anywhere because they realize that there's such a world that's beyond them still. So what was their experience?
Oh yeah, like 200%. You start by it's funny when you see the memes that say like I peaked in high school and stuff like that, right? Like that's so true. It's so true, especially when you go to very competitive college afterwards. Like you realize like I might have been like medium to big sized fish in high school, but then like you go to college, like you're just a tiny ass fish in this huge
A little
pond,
go fish.
right? Yeah, no, that's literally what it feels like. And like you get to campus, you're surrounded by these super smart people, and you're like, how the fuck am I here? Like these people are so smart. How am I here? Like what the heck, right? And it's imposter syndrome, and I think and it's very real for most people. And everyone feels this, and that's sort of what's ironic about it, is that like you feel like you don't belong here, he feels like he doesn't belong here, she feels like she doesn't belong here, everyone feels like they don't belong here, but everyone is here for some reason, right? And it's just like but like you learn to live with it, and the more people you talk about it with, and the more people you end up meeting, you realize like
Right.
like you start to find people who have the same interests, you start to build friend groups, and that's when you start to become more comfortable. But certainly like the first few months, really it's like it's a lot. And certainly some people have dealt with it better than others. And I think, again, like I'm going to praise CEGEP again, but having just that 1 year of extra maturity helped me sort of weather a lot of those initial challenges and anxieties. And I think also what's interesting is that because I had 1 year extra than most Americans, like I came in a year older than most freshmen. And so it was it was also sort of a different, I was kind of used to sort of this college environment already, because CEGEP is very similar to the college environment.
It's a preparatory kind of like program anyway.
It is preparatory in a lot of ways. And so very, very, again, if we could put CEGEP everywhere, we should.
Hey, a lot of people hate the system, but anyway, not going to talk for them. What about the course load? How'd you find the course load? Also, what concentration did you pick? I know. Wait, first year, so it's really like general education, stuff like that. You don't do your concentration yet, right?
Yeah, so the nice thing about liberal arts colleges is that you can wait until your second year to decide what you want to concentrate in or major in. And so but even then that's kind of an illusion, because you still sort of have to have an idea of what you want to do in your first year, because you still have to finish your prereqs, right? And so that first year is still somewhat important, because you got to get some of those credits and those prereqs done.
Yeah.
And so, coming in, like when I was applying, I actually thought I was going to do something along the lines of like health policy, because I wanted to sort of merge my interests with the biological STEM field and my political interests. But then coming onto campus, I sort of, I shifted more towards like the pure STEM part and doing more like hard science and engineering type science. But now I'm sort of shifting back more towards the intersection between the sciences and business. So I'm thinking of doing, possibly a minor in economics, or at least taking like economics classes, because I think the sort of the biotech industry is just something that's super interesting and fascinating to me, and that's something that I potentially want to explore as an opportunity. So just sort of find that intersection between pure business and science, because I still want to get involved with science. Science is awesome, right?
It's the fundamental of reality, you could say that.
Yeah.
So your concentration is bioengineering, and you're considering minoring in economics.
Yeah, economics or computer science.
Or computer science.
Or both, or I don't know. We'll see, or neither. I mean, I definitely do want to take classes in both. But I think, but the minor part is more for the label, right? Like you can say like, oh, like I minored in this, but in reality, it's like it doesn't really matter that much because I still end up taking class. I think like thinking about it, it's like if you're going to an employer, like saying I minored in CS probably carries just as much weight as saying I also took 10 CS classes.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. Because minor, like you minor, it's like you reach that threshold. You actually like something official to it.
Yeah.
So what about the course load? Your first year, freshman year, and what courses really stood out to you?
Yeah, course load was fine in terms of workload. You know, it's I think it's what you would expect. It's it's not. Yeah, I think it's what you would expect, right? It's not a horror story, but it's also not a fantasy land, right?
Right.
It's work. There's for this, and I signed up to this one class, which is this intensive integrated life sciences class, which was amazing. It's actually an 8-credit class. So usually classes are 4 credit. This class counted for 8 credits, and it actually took up the spot of 2 classes, right? Because it's 8 credits, and that's where I met some of my really good friends. Just a small group of people who are just super nerdy about and fascinated about the life sciences and the integration of all the different disciplinaries in life sciences.
What exactly is integration of life sciences?
Yeah, I mean, if you think about it, like what is life sciences, right? Like some biology, some chemistry, some physics, some biochemistry, some biophysics, right? Like it's like essentially what integrated means is it's just like you're taking physics, chemistry, biology, and like integrating them together.
Link between all of them.
Yeah, exactly. And I think like that's where it makes sense, right? Because that's where like there's never just pure bio. Well, I mean there is, but it's like studying pure biology is just like, to me, is not as interesting as looking at biology from the lens of chemistry and physics, because that's how they work. Like that's how the world works.
They're interrelated.
Right? Things work together. Things are never just like alone by themselves, right? And so I think that's what's super interesting is you get to explore the life sciences from the sort of integrated lens. And yeah, that course, it was like maybe 10 hours a week of work. We had so we have these things called problem sets, which are essentially like homework assignments, and they're you need to work in a team for those, because like if you, like, most people can't do them on their own. I
like literally can't. Like
no, like can't, because it's just hard, right? Like you just need to work with other people.
They're good.
Oftentimes people who are often smarter than you, right? And then leech from them. But it's like no. It was a great class. It was a great community. It was like a small group because it was an intensive class. And so, but the workload was like I said, 10 hours a week on average, just for that class. And then you had other classes.
Just for that class, right?
Yeah. And so I think in average, it would probably be around like 15, 20 hours a week for all your classes, depending on the difficulty of classes you choose. Because certainly some classes have more work than others. But yeah, it's around like 15 to 20 hours, I think.
And I remember you said obviously you signed up for a shit ton of extracurriculars to begin with.
Oh, yeah. That was horrible. Yeah, it's like I tell myself that was a bad decision in CEGEP. Why did I do it again in my freshman year, right? I think it's just a ritual for freshmen at this point to just try as many things as possible. Like so I signed up to the Chinese Student Association, and then I also signed up to Model UN, and then I was part of HPAIR, which is the Harvard Project for Asian and International Relations, which I still am part of, and it's one of sort of the organizations that I've really decided to dedicate most of my time with. It's a conference organization, and we plan a biannual conference, and it's awesome. I can spend hours talking about that as well. And then I was also part of iGEM, which is a synthetic biology team. And participates every year in the annual synthetic biology iGEM competition. This year, we actually got a gold medal and a nomination for best model, which was super awesome.
Wow.
But usually usually the conference is held in Paris, actually, but we obviously fucking didn't end up going. Like,
man,
it's so annoying. It's so annoying. But no, it ended up being virtual, which was so whack. But yeah, so that honestly, like a bunch of other small things that I really don't remember, but I ended up
probably
dropping
irrelevant.
most things. Oh, I also did some consulting with a consulting organization as well.
Okay.
But yeah, no, like today I'm mostly doing, like I said, HPAIR, which is the Project for Asian International Relations Conference. And yeah.
Now, from an academic perspectives, are extracurriculars as important as they are from college to, for example, CEGEP or high school, according to you?
Well, I mean, it's like, to me, it's like extracurriculars are just an opportunity
They're
for
fun,
you to
obviously.
for you to one, have fun, two, find a community of like-minded people and just find friends, right? Two, and then three, to explore sort of your own interests, hobbies, or a possible career path for pre-professional organizations like consulting orgs, right? I think those are the three main value adds of extracurriculars, right? Prior to college, you would have probably been like, oh, like extracurriculars are also an opportunity for you to boost up your resume. But like, it's not, like that certainly is like a fourth value add, but the first three are so much more important, so much more valuable. I
totally agree.
Right? Because college is the campus is so big, it's hard to just find an organic place to make friends and meet groups.
That's true.
Organizations are a great place to do that.
Yeah.
And also to just explore your career and possibly things that you might want to do and develop other skills, right? Like planning skills and soft skills, like I said, that you gain through extracurriculars that you can't gain just through classes, right?
Now, I also want to kind of bring up some like the misconceptions. What kind of misconception did you have before going in that you realized, okay, that was not at all the case of it, anything that happened?
In like school in general, or
let's do Harvard first.
Misconceptions. I don't think I had any conception to begin with, so you can't really have misconceptions. I think, I mean, I think definitely something that blew me away was just how much, especially the first month, it was a lot harder than I thought it was going to be, because everyone is just so new, and there's this added pressure that, oh, you need to like find your social group, you need to find friends and stuff, and everyone's out there looking for friends, and it was very, very draining, because what you end up doing is you end up engaging in so much small talk with people, and it's always the same thing, right? You meet someone new and you're like, hi, what's your name? Where are you from?
How'd you get
what are
in?
you concentrating in?
Yeah.
Which dorm are you in, right? It's the same questions. Everyone asks the same questions every time. And so it's draining. It was, I think, like by the end of the first month, I was physically and mentally like just drained. Like I just wanted to lock myself in my room and just watch Netflix for a whole day. Like I was tired. I didn't want to do it anymore. Yeah. Right. But that's sort of what happens when you put a bunch of random strangers together on a huge campus with people they don't know, and apparently these kids are all supposed to be like super smart, and so you have
strangers.
This pressure you have this pressure of like performing both from yourself as well as from your peers, and so that's just something that's going to naturally happen. Yeah,
actually, a popular misconception I want to ask you. Obviously, it's a generalization. Obviously. So I heard that some people think that, like really elite colleges like Harvard, for example, most people there are very self-interested or power hungry, always want to be like as a top position because that's how they were in high school, for example.
Social climbers.
Have you ever experienced something like that? Your experience?
For sure, 100%. There are many people like that on campus, just as there are many people who are not like that on campus. And I think you'll find different personalities on every campus, right? You'll have it's just a spectrum of people, and some people are certainly very, very, very into that mindset of like, oh, I'm going to network, I'm going to meet these people, then I'm going to climb the social ladder, like get into an executive position, stuff like that, right?
Yeah.
But just as likely as you are to meet someone like that, you're just as likely to find someone who doesn't give a fuck about it, right? Someone most likely an English or philosophy major, right?
Right.
They're
just having fun, doing what they love.
Yeah, no offense, and no offense to like the stereotypes, but I'm obviously just joking, but you also find people who don't care about these things and are just there to have fun.
Yeah.
So you end up meeting people from all walks of life and from all different personalities. And again, I think that's the beauty of it. It's such a heterogeneous group where you can just learn so much from everyone. It's awesome.
So what exactly why did Harvard became your choice? What about MIT, Stanford? Or is it just the first one? What made you choose Harvard in particular?
Yeah, I mean, like, let's be frank. Most of the, higher level colleges in the States, schools like in the Ivy League or even Stanford and MIT, like the academic curriculum is pretty much the same. Like, I would get the same pretty much the same education had I gone to, MIT for engineering, Stanford for CS, or whatever, Princeton for something else, or whatever, or the education is very similar. They all have great professors and great faculty. And now what's different is sort of the people who attend these schools. And to me, honestly, I would have probably been really, really happy going to any of these other schools. Like, ultimately, I think the choice is very arbitrary, right? It's because Harvard is Harvard, and
no denying that.
Right. So So obviously the name carries a lot of weight.
Yeah.
Oh my God, sorry, the tea.
Good morning tea.
Obviously the name carries a lot of weight. That's a huge consideration. The school is also based in Boston, which is a huge biotech hub. And so, or rather Cambridge, but Cambridge is right next to Boston. So, Boston is a huge biotech hub, and Harvard is 5 hours drive away from home. So, sort of a lot of things worked out in the end, right? Had Harvard been in the middle of North Dakota, I don't, if that had been the case, I don't know. But I think had I been accepted to Yale or Stanford or any other prestigious school, I would have been equally happy. And I don't think it makes much of a difference, right? Like I said again, at the end of the day, what makes a difference is the people you meet. And to me, it's just I want to go somewhere where I can have as many opportunities to meet people from different places, people who are like-minded, people who are smart, and learn from them. And I felt like Harvard was a great place for me to sort of explore that community, and it would be a great community for me to explore.
Yeah.
But again, ultimately, the decision between Harvard and like a place like MIT is very arbitrary, and probably like name recognition plays a huge.
Oh, you cut out, but you're back.
So name recognition plays a huge role in it. Yeah.
Yeah. After your freshman year, that was how would you describe it in a couple of words? Tough, demanding, or like sort of like what you expected?
You know what? I would describe it as it's hard to pinpoint like an absolute term to it, but I will say it was made easier again by CEGEP. I have friends who have struggled a lot more than I have in their first year because they didn't have CEGEP and they didn't have that like mental preparation for what sort of this like independent schedule would look like, and how like you had to sort of socialize yourself and create your own opportunities and stuff like that. And so it was definitely made easier by CEGEP. Now, is it hard or is it easy? It's like everything is relative, right? It's
Depends
like it's
on
hard.
so many
like
things.
if I say it's hard, like the definition of hard is different between me and you.
It's not gonna mean much.
Right?
Yeah.
It's really not gonna mean much. But what I will say, it's like having done CEGEP, and if you're someone who's considering doing college in the States and you've gone through CEGEP, it'll be a lot easier for you than for other people.
I guess we're out. Quebec is finally onto something in that sense. The education sphere. Oh yeah. Because the gap between high school and
they should sponsor me for being like a CEGEP ambassador or something.
Shout out.
I praise CEGEP so much.
You're the first person I met that's praising it. I get Luca Belan loved it too. That's school of life. To learn the full story on how David Chow left Harvard on the gap year to travel Canada while building a social media app, go to episode 10 with David Chow.